Welcome to Bunch Formation, your newest favorite college football show. I am Chris Vannini, and I'm not thinking about the next game. I'm thinking about cracking open a beer.
I am David Ubben, and I am at the coaching convention, fresh off of having a lot of Chick-fil-A at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. They are aggressive about pushing the Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, David, once again on site, on assignment. He's in his hometown of Charlotte for the convention this year. I am not going this year. We got a number of colleagues out there. It's going to be a bit of a. We'll maybe get a report from you after the convention. But David,
Yeah, we're just kind of getting ramped up now. It's a little slow to start, so yeah.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, it's the big coaching convention every year. It's college, it's high school, it's a lot of that. It's a little bit weird this year because the transfer portal is still open. So there may not be as many people around for this year's thing. But what's the early vibe there?
The early vibe is that there are not a lot of FBS head coaches or position coaches here because they're busy flipping Hollywood Smothers and grabbing Cam Coleman and all these other things going on. So, there's a reason why the convention is moving out of the portal window next year. But this event is always valuable for a lot of the coaches. And so it's cool to be here and see people and catch up with people you haven't seen in a little bit. Anytime we can get coaches together in one place is easier than trying to go to, a bunch of campuses. So,
yeah. We've got an abbreviated show today. We're going to get into second thoughts on the semifinals, included David, who was at Indiana, Oregon, but was not on the reaction show. We're going to talk about a bunch of transfer portal news. The portal closes, I believe, on Monday, the 12th, right? I think that's right. That's
that's the last day you can go in, but I think there's so there's still going to be the big pieces are going to go pretty quickly, but we're still waiting on Dante Moore to kind of start the quarterback dominoes of kind of getting this thing cooking. So,
and that's part of the reason why coaches are on campus still. They're trying to keep their guys up until the deadline. We'll talk about a couple of transfer portal news, some big news that happened in the portal, and then I'll be joined by someone who knows Indiana's football struggles up close. That would be my father-in-law, who is an Indiana alumnus who was there when the Hoosiers were terrible. So I decided, hey, let's get somebody on who can really give us the perspective of what Indiana used to be. That'll be at the end of the show, and we'll just kind of talk about how different this all is now. But go back into your feeds if you want deeper thoughts on Indiana, Oregon, on Miami-Ole Miss. We went about almost an hour on both of those games. I was in a hotel room on the first one. I was joined by Scott Docterman, our colleague, for the second one. So we're constantly moving and shaking here. We're in different locations. But we're trying to.
I like the show with you and Scott, by the way, Chris. I listened on my way from the Peach Bowl to Charlotte. So good job, and I enjoyed hearing Scott's thoughts as well.
Yes, if you haven't checked out the show notes, you can jump ahead. We'll have some timestamps in there. Send all your feedback and emails to bunchformationpod@gmail.com or bunchformation on all your social media. Gotta say, some of the reaction clips from the semifinals that we've posted on Instagram and TikTok are actually blowing up pretty big. So follow us there too if you want to find some clips. And please leave us a 5-star review on Apple or a comment on Spotify. We will read them on the show. It means a lot. It helps a lot. We got one from Can't Get Right 84 who says, "This show is packed with everything you want from a college football podcast: humor, opinions, up-to-date news and takes. Hard to find a more efficient way to consume college football week to week. Go Vols." Thank you very much for that. We got a Spotify comment from Renee Jarden 1997 who said, "Love hearing from Scott again. I liked his occasional appearances on the old pod." Yes, Scott Docterman, our Big Ten writer, was fantastic. We've had Sam Kahn on a couple of times. Once we're getting into the offseason, we're going to try to bring a lot more people on the show.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to try to go deeper into some topics. Just this first season, just the two of us. Schedules are tough to line up. David's got 2 kids, so planning more than 2 people was pretty difficult once the season started. But as we move into the offseason, we got some plans for other people to come on, interviews, all kinds of stuff. So looking forward to that. Hope to have Scott on, Sam on. We will definitely have a lot more. All right, so first, we're going to go back and look at the semifinals, and to do that, we're going to jump into, I guess, the game recaps.
Kids are playing their tail off, and the coaches are screwing it up.
Indiana destroyed Oregon a lot to a little in the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. David, you were there. What was the scene like? Like everybody was saying it was like 90% Indiana fans. Like first off, just what was that scene like? And what's that like when Indiana gets a pick six on the first play?
I mean, the place basically exploded. I think there's been a lot of like, why are people so interested in this? And it's because I've been to a lot of bowl games, and have never seen one that was that lopsided and full. There were almost no empty seats in the house once the game started, which is in itself an accomplishment in the semifinals. I think it speaks to the magnitude of the moment for Indiana fans that are like, this is a gold rush. Maybe this is the start of a dynasty. Maybe I don't know what this is if you're an Indiana fan, but you want to be there for whatever this thing becomes. And, being a touchdown favorite in a national championship game is quite a thing. And so I think the Miami crowd is going to be super, super interesting. But I think the reason why it's so notable and so many people are talking about it is because, it's a little easier to get to Atlanta from Indiana. But it's not like it's a hop, skip, and a jump. It's like an 8-hour drive.
It's more than that. It's like a 9.5 hour drive. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's notable. And I think it was notable not only in seeing the sea of red, but just like being around town. I saw almost no Indiana fans there. My hotel was full of Indiana fans. I saw almost no Oregon fans. My hotel was full of Indiana fans. And, downtown was packed. And I think I just haven't seen a bowl game, and not just a bowl game, but like a playoff game of that magnitude that was so one-sided. And sure, like Oregon, there's a lot of reasons for that, but I don't really care about the reasons. It's just notable to see it. But man, that pick six, I'm going to remember that play for a long time because there was so much buildup, and like, the buildup happens for a big game, and then you kind of settle in and like they're feeling each other out. But like to have that buildup to kickoff, you get a big hit on the kickoff, which a lot of the players are talking about. Like that was a kind of a big moment for us. Then obviously the D'Angelo Pons pick six. Again, I keep saying, Chris, if he gets any better at covering any more territory, we got to go with D'Angelo Lakes. I'm going to get that in print at some point this season. I promise you.
And I saw there was a clip going on after the game of an Oregon staffer giving the game ball to Pons on the field after the game.
Yeah, I believe it was Chris Carr. I believe is his name. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That was really cool. Just like maybe that happens a lot. I don't know, but that was really cool. I thought it was really kind of a classy moment there.
Kenny Farr, the football equipment administrator. He's been there for like 20 years at Oregon.
Okay. Shout out to him. That was very, very cool. And I think the Indiana fans of it all, it is kind of the joy of the last couple of years of college football playoff, which is a lot of teams are doing this for the first time. Teams that haven't been here in a long time. Like Miami fans showed out against Ohio State in Dallas in a way that even Miami was surprised about. It's a smaller school, private school. It's not as big as Ohio State, obviously, but it was probably like 60-40 in the Cotton Bowl. So I think with all these new fan bases reaching this level for the first time, there's just excitement. There's nothing like doing it for the first time. Like whenever when any team goes on a dynasty or goes on a run or whatever, the first time you're kind of making that run of the championship is the one you always remember because it's fresh. You've never done this before. Indiana's probably never going to be 15-0 again just because of the nature of the sport. Who knows what they're going to be?
This is hater talk.
Look, I didn't think anybody was going to be 15-0.
I didn't either.
That's the thing. Like, again, the only team to ever go 16-0 at the top level of college football was Yale in 1894, and they played like Wesleyan like 3 times. Like it's last year Ohio State 2 losses in the regular season, still won the championship, and we were all like, "This is gonna be the norm now." Like you're going to lose some games along the way, and suddenly Indiana's like, "No, we're not." And so it's just the environment for the championship game is going to be insane. Like, I don't know if we will ever have a national championship that will feel like this with one of them.
I don't even know what to expect. Like being in a home stadium, but also like the way the ticket distribution works. Like, I imagine it's going to be. I mean, I bet it's probably more Miami, but like I think Indiana.
I don't know. Like
it
would not surprise me if it's 50-50 or even more Indiana, based on how they have filled out the Rose Bowl, how they filled out the Peach Bowl. It's crazy. So the game itself, it's it's what, 35-7 at halftime, I think. And it's like, well,
something along those lines.
You take away the turnovers and it's a bit of a closer game. It's not maybe as lopsided as it feels, in the second half just kind of went as it went. What did you make of the game itself and the way it played out?
I knew that there was a potential for Indiana to flex here, but I thought more like a 38-20 type of situation. Not 56-22, I think was the final, but like it wasn't even quite that close. And then obviously Indiana adds the touchdown in the final seconds. The problem is Indiana just doesn't let up on you and doesn't make mistakes. So when you make mistakes, it can snowball on you really, really fast.
Yep.
And I think there's a world in which Oregon is competitive in that game. But the problem is anytime you're getting whipped up front, like Oregon was on both sides of the ball, that's going to be an uphill battle to even make the game competitive. Or Indiana was running the ball with relative ease. And, I elected to go in the locker room after the game rather than go to any of the breakouts, the press conferences. And, like, they felt that. And, I kind of talked to a lot of their offensive linemen about kind of what it's like when you break a team, because Indiana has made a habit of beating the crap out of teams this year.
Yep.
And like when the offensive line knows like, hey, we're in control the rest of this game, and they can look across and sort of see that teams don't want it. And I believe it was their right tackle. I think it was Drew Curtis. It's in the story that I wrote. But he said when you are beating a team like that and you look across the line of scrimmage and you can just tell that they don't want it, he's like, that's one of the greatest joys in life. He said, but it takes a lot of work to get to that point. There's not a lot of people who know what it's like to be up 30 in a college football semifinal. It's them and like Joe Burrow and anybody who played Oklahoma, basically.
Yeah.
Like, it's an interesting experience. And so I think Indiana is a team that uniquely takes joy in beating the crap out of people and piling on. As a CFP 26 player, I have to appreciate that. But they are going to keep throwing late, keep their starters in. I maybe wouldn't run Mr. Mendoza as much as they did late, but they got away with it. So Indiana, super fascinating program at the moment.
Yeah, and there was a stat from somebody on Twitter, I forgot what it was, but it was like the only teams to have scored 55 plus points in a game 7 times and won, I think, the same amount of games by 30 is like 1890 something Princeton, 1890 something Yale, and Indiana this year. Like they are truly dominant. And we'll get into it more. We're going to have our big national championship preview show on Thursday, the normal Thursday show. We'll go deep on the preview for the championship game. We can have the conversation of like, do you start to put Indiana in that 2019 LSU conversation, 2001 Miami? I don't know. We'll get into it. Either going into that game, or maybe even we wait till after the game. We'll see. But we'll have a deeper show later in the week on that. As for Oregon, the big game problem is not as much of a problem as I think some people want to say it is. However, there is something to be said about getting blown out in the second time you've played Ohio State and the second time you played Indiana. The first
when both games were basically coin flip-ish games.
Yes, and they were underdogs in both games, but yes, and in two different ways. Like Ohio State ran around Oregon and just threw all over them. Indiana went through Oregon. Like there were not big chunk plays. They were running it down their throat and doing all these different things. And so, you do wonder a little bit, Tosh Lupoy on his way out to be the Cal head coach, Will Stein, the offense coordinator, on his way out to be the Kentucky head coach. I imagine that played a little bit of a factor in it, but wasn't the case last year. Do you think this is an issue? Or do you think it's overblown and they're just simply running into buzzsaws?
I mean, it's definitely an issue. Is it an issue that cannot be surmounted later on? I don't think so. I have a lot of trust. I think for Dan Lanning to build up Oregon to the point that it is now, you've got to do a ton of things right. I think he understands the modern sport schematically, roster construction, roster building. I think they do things pretty much exactly how you should do it for what Oregon needs. Where you're Oregon, you can recruit well enough in California and nationally, but you don't have this super robust like recruiting base where you do have to fill in with the portal. I think they hit that balance really well, bringing in big pieces. Evan Stewart obviously didn't get to do that much this year. I'm not sure he even played this year. But like bringing pieces like that, portaling a quarterback, that seems to be, if your evals are right and the things around him work well, we're seeing in the portal era that goes right a lot more than it goes wrong. Bringing in a big time quarterback, and I think having Dante Moore bring him in and sit behind Dylan Gabriel for a year, I think he'd be well served to stay in school another year and just get another 12 to 15 starts under his belt. But it worked pretty well this year. He looked like a completely different player than the guy that we saw at UCLA. I'm sure there's a ton of reasons for that. So there's a lot more right with the program than wrong. And when you look at these losses, the only big concern is in the early years of Kirby Smart, they have these losses to Alabama. It was like these were games where they seemed like they were the better team, and they kept losing these games in crazy ways. And so I definitely was more willing to be just get more bites at the apple and you'll get there. And then they won 2 national championships and their program continued to grow. The blowouts are concerning. That looks like you got outcoached, where you just are not competitive in these games. And so I think you got to look at that, try to figure that out. But again, if your biggest problem is national champions or national runner-ups are blowing us out in the playoff, I think there's a lot of programs that would kill to have that problem.
Yeah, and it's not a James Franklin thing because he beat Ohio State last year. He beat Penn State in the Big Ten championship, who went to the semifinal and nearly went to the championship game last year. They whipped up Texas Tech this year, another top 4 seed. So it's not like you play a good team and he's losing. He's got good wins. In the Washington games, he loses the one on a missed field goal as time expires. The first one in Seattle, I was at that game. That is, he's right there so many times. My bigger concern is, why are you getting blown out the second time you play that team? What are they seeing from you in that first game that they are adjusting to and you are not adjusting to? And I think that is my concern. And I was thinking about this too, how many coaches would you really take over Dan Lanning?
That's
it's
the point.
Not many.
He's probably in my top 4. It's like Kirby, Signetti. I'm forgetting
Marcus Freeman, probably.
Close, yeah.
It's on the fence, Sarkisian.
Lanning seems like a slam dunk top 5 right now. You can make a pretty strong case for top 3. So
I think would you take Kalen DeBoer over him? I think I would, because he beat him straight up.
I don't know. It'd be close. I don't like a lot of what I've seen from Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, but what he did at Washington was a pretty wild turnaround in literally 1 year. So, or 2, I guess it was a year, 2 years. But yeah, it's hard to say. But they're close. The point is, your point is correct that he's definitely one of the best coaches in the game.
Yeah, and so we don't know on Dante Moore after the game. He, as of recording Sunday, he said after the game he hadn't made a decision yet. That does impact what Oregon does in the portal, which we will get into later in the show. Ole Miss, Miami, you and I did talk about this for a long game. As I kind of looked back at it, I thought more and more that Ole Miss basically did everything it could. And Miami kind of played like a C+ game, and that's
horrific tackling. Couldn't catch an interception to save their life.
10 penalties, a turnover deep in Ole Miss territory. You drop 4 interceptions, which led to at least 6 points. Credit to the defense, though, for forcing as many field goals as they did. I always say football's about finishing drives and turnovers, and Ole Miss was constantly having to attempt field goals. They made a bunch of them. Doink the one. But Miami's defense didn't break ultimately when it didn't need to for the most part. And offensively, you had 5 drives of at least 9 plays, and I think 4 of at least 12 plays. What they did on third down and what Indiana did on third down, that's going to be maybe the biggest key for the national championship game. But Miami did what it wanted to do. It just couldn't finish things all the way, and it kept shooting itself in the foot. Ole Miss, again, I think you did pretty much as much as you could have there. Miami's just a really good team, and we know that they're a more complete team. I did think Ole Miss calling those timeouts down by the goal line at the end of the game. Looking back, I don't think I agreed with that because I think ultimately it allowed Miami to run the ball, which they did on the first and goal play. And it gave Miami more options because they had more timeouts still. And that limits that leaves more options for your defense as well. So like a lot of times in that situation, you're trying to use the timeouts. If you get the stop, they kick the field goal maybe, and you've got time or something like that. I think in this situation, I think I wouldn't have called those in hindsight, but that's easy to say in hindsight. But other than that, I mean, I didn't think Ole Miss really did anything all that incorrectly.
No, but again, if Miami makes a lot of the mistakes that they made against Indiana, they're going to lose by 3 touchdowns. When Indiana gives you a crack, when you get 2 hands on a ball from Fernando Mendoza, you better catch that. And
or six hands.
Yeah, if that happens, you better catch it. And I would advise you to take it to the house or do everything you can to try and do that because it's just going to be hard to push them around.
Mendoza, by the way, still has more touchdown passes in the playoff than incompletions. Insane. You're not going to have many opportunities. He was unbelievably accurate in that game. I think that's the thing. Like, that is maybe it's talked about a lot, but like his ball placement is like perfect. Those back shoulder throws to Surratt, like there is almost never a throw that's not where it's supposed to be.
And this is the first time I'd seen him in person. So I watched him work out quite a bit before the game. And maybe some of that's ball control, but it doesn't fly. Like his velocity is not crazy. It's like pretty, like I would say almost below average velocity. He can get it downfield when he needs to. And some of that might just be control. But some of the throws that he makes, knowing that, like he had one throw in that game that I was looking straight down the barrel for. It was a deep out on the far side of the field. And when he let it go, I was like, uh-oh. But he threw it before the guy came out of his break into super tight coverage. I forget who threw it. It might have been to Cooper. But it was before he came out of his break and just hit him perfectly, like on the outside hand, gave him enough space to make a play. Like that timing, I mean, that comes with repetition, but the anticipation and being able to see that and know, that comes back to the velocity of like knowing what your arm has, where you have, how much you need to put on it and put it where it needs to go. It really is like Mendoza. He's going to be an interesting test for NFL people because like he has enough tools where it's not like he's deficient. But so much of the NFL stuff is built around what tools you have and not as much about how much can you play football. And Fernando Mendoza seems like a very good football player with like above average tools that aren't really what you would see on like a number 1 pick, But I think if I was grading this group of quarterbacks, it's like you look at Dante Moore, it's like the tools are like screaming at you. But he kind of does some weird stuff. He's a little bit indecisive, not as accurate as you maybe would like. So it'll be interesting to see what Fernando Mendoza's like NFL trajectory looks like.
I would also too, like the NFL now, you're not looking for really the Josh Allen. I say this as the Bills Jags playoff game is going on, but you're not really looking for the guy who can throw it 70 yards. You're looking for the guy. Everything in the NFL now is 2 high safeties, so you have to fit everything in a small window within 20 yards down the field. And that is what Mendoza is very good at. So that'll be interesting as well. And but Indiana catches everything. They've dropped like just a handful of. They catch everything, and that helps. That helps everything as well.
That catch that Elijah Surratt had, the back shoulder, where he's just getting grabbed, catches
twice.
It. Well, that one was good, but the one where he caught it, the guy's playing through his hands, catches it, moves it like away from the defender, and then gets a foot down and goes down and holds onto it anyway. It's just like that level of like this combination of skill, strength, football IQ, coordination. Like, again, I think some of this comes back to evals and the things that Kurt Cignetti can see on tape that don't necessarily jump off at you in terms of measurables. I think that he's better at evals than almost every coach that we've seen.
There's a play that Boston Connor from the McAfee Show tweeted out where one of the defensive ends at Indiana, who's a former JMU player,
Mikhail Kamara,
puts the Oregon left tackle in an absolute blender, and it's like, we are aware of the social media chatter about the idea that Indiana is cheating or something. Talk's been around for a while. I'm been unsure if I want to like actually get into it or not. We'll think about it for the Thursday show. But like, just watch the tape, guys. Watch watch the plays that these guys are making. What Surratt is doing when the ball comes to him, and like, you got to appreciate the execution.
And I will say, can we address the pick six briefly, Chris? Because if you watch if you're looking for signs that they know what's coming on tape, I think you can see things that aren't there. Like, it's not worth getting in the weeds on this, but that first pick six is a really good example. It's like if you watch it, they show cover three to start, and then immediately this safety that's playing middle of the field comes down in cover two, and Pons, who looks like he's playing deep third, crashes down quick. They just shifted from cover three to cover two, and Dante Moore didn't see it, and he threw right into it. Well, that's not knowing the play. That's just deceiving the defense.
And it was a terrible throw. It was a bad throw.
Also, that is way inside. Yes.
And like Bruce Feldman talked to a bunch of Big Ten coaches going into the Alabama game, I think. And every coach was saying what defense coordinator Bryant Haynes does with his disguising is like better than anybody. Every play, they're showing something and it's something else. It's like me playing David in College Football 26, basically.
I do love to disguise. That's like my best attribute.
That's everything Indiana does, is showing you something and then they're giving you something else. That's what they do. And we said it before the game, by the way. On rematches, when you talk to coaches, it's not about scheme or this or that. Everybody knows what the other team is running, especially when you've played them a second time. It's about executing, and Indiana did. Ole Miss, Miami, again, any other leftover thoughts on that?
No, I'm glad. I'm happy for Miami that like they're peaking at this time. Like it's nice that we're seeing Miami.
Both these teams are playing as like Indiana's playing better than it ever has, and I think that's going to make for a fun.
And I think that I'm happy for Miami that they're playing like the team that we thought they were the first month of the season. We were like, are these guys better than everybody else? And like it looks like it, but that's
here's the thing. Like,
game.
By the way, in the old days, Indiana would have already won the national championship. Like if we had a poll championship, Indiana would be champions. If we had the BCS, I don't know if they would have played Ohio State or not, or they would have played maybe Georgia if they switched. They wouldn't have done a rematch. But like in most cases, Indiana has already won the championship, and instead they have to do something like 16-0. It will 100% be earned if they do that. We'll go deeper into the championship game a lot more on the Thursday show. All right, now let's move into the media scrum. We got some transfer stuff to talk about.
That's why I don't read the newspaper, because it's garbage.
But actually, before the transfer stuff, while I was in the O'Hare airport, got the news from the NCAA has denied Trinidad Chambliss, denied him a 6th year of eligibility. The NCAA said basically that there are no notable medical records from 2022 at Ferris State. Ole Miss was trying to say there was like a respiratory issue that didn't allow him to play that year. But the NCAA said the documents provided by Ole Miss at the student's prior school included a physician's note from December 22, which stated he was doing very well since he was last seen in August. Additionally, the prior school, Ferris State, indicated it had no documentation of medical treatment, injury reports, or medical conditions involving him, and cited, quote, developmental needs and or our team's competitive circumstances as the reason he did not play in the 2022 season. The waiver was denied. Ole Miss plans to appeal. Tom Mars is threatening to take this to court. I'm ultimately not surprised based on what we knew publicly, which was there doesn't really seem to be any medical documentation of this. I think, there's part of you that says, look, he didn't play. He's only played 2.5 years of college football. Really, he didn't play the first couple of years at Ferris State. So it's like, NCAA, do you just kind of take the easy layup and let him do it because this isn't a guy looking to play on the field for a 7th year type of thing? Or do you try to be consistent and draw a line in the sand, which is the idea is you have 5 years to play for, not just you get to play 4 full seasons, however long that takes. So what did you make of it?
Well, if you're not able to play for a full season and you say it's because of a medical reason and you can't produce medical records to back that up, seems like it'd be pretty straightforward. I mean, again, I think morally or practically, I think most people would kind of be like fine with it. But, it is like you said, 5 years to play 4. If you don't do it, you don't do it. So I don't have a lot of strong thoughts either way. But if it was indeed a medical issue, like it seems like there's probably like not enough evidence there to back up like, oh, medically he couldn't play that year.
And the argument, part of the argument, if it goes to court, Tom Marr says that's up to Chambliss's family. If it does, the argument will be like, look, Chambliss is set to make, what is it, like $4 or $5 million from Ole Miss if he comes back. They have agreed on that pending his ability to play. So can you say legally, you can't let this guy play college football and you're limiting his ability to make more money here than he would in the NFL? That would be the argument. That is the argument essentially for unlimited eligibility.
Yes.
Which is if you're taking classes, you're a college student, you should be able to play however long that is, because you shouldn't be able to limit this guy making this type of money.
That seems to be a place where the NCAA is not allowing people to do that, and 2, a place where they have been successful in court.
Yes, the courts so far have generally not been in favor of, and made clear that they're not exactly in favor of, unlimited eligibility. Diego Pavia's argument was, I played 2 years of JUCO. JUCO's not under the NCAA, therefore I should be able to play. And they said, okay. And it was just that limited time frame. All of these eligibility cases are people asking for a unique thing in their situation or a class of players. Not all players playing forever. There was a thought when Talia Tagovailoa,
I thought he could win. When he didn't win, I thought it might be.
People thought he might sue and try to get unlimited eligibility. And so I don't know if anyone has actually tried to get that, but that is the thing that people have been worried about forever. But for all the losses the NCAA is taking in court, courts have generally not wanted to tackle or have generally agreed with the idea that unlimited eligibility would change college football, that it would be in some senses anti-competitive because you would take opportunities away from high school players. That is the argument they've made, and they've generally been successful. So we'll see where it goes. I can't imagine in 2022 anybody at Ferris State was expecting this situation, with Trinidad Chambliss and what he was going to be. So we will see. But in the meantime, Ole Miss is doing some stuff in the portal, along with some others, which is, first off, they add Deuce Knight, former 5-star quarterback from Auburn, played a little bit as a true freshman last year. He has committed to Ole Miss. So whether or not Chambliss isn't there or not, Deuce Knight going to Ole Miss. What do you think of that?
My main question is his name actually Deuce, or is he a junior and he leans into Deuce? Because if his name's actually Deuce, I'm like kind of okay with that. But if he's a junior and he just goes by Deuce, I'm actually kind of more into that. Do we know? Do we have a confirmation?
I'm looking up his Auburn bio here. It says Deuce Knight does not give a full name.
Well, we'll find out soon enough. I mean, he didn't play a ton last year at Auburn. I liked what I saw from him. I think you have enough pieces, and certainly the tools are there. But like, we just haven't seen enough of him. Like, I don't watch a lot of like high school tape, so I don't see those guys. But I do watch a lot of G5 lower level ball. So when you get a feel for the portal, you can get a feel for the portal. So the times that I saw him play last year at Auburn, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, he was a top 25 overall recruit, like a real 5-star guy. So and still very young. So pretty good pickup.
I like the upside, but it's like, we'll see.
Big one for Texas. Cam Coleman, former Auburn wide receiver, commits to the Longhorns. This is a big one because Texas has lost quite a few skill guys in the portal. You had Parker Livingstone leave, go to Oklahoma, and basically kind of say he was encouraged to leave. And it was kind of like, all right, where's Texas exactly going here? And now you get Cam Coleman, one of the best players in the portal, one of the most talented receivers in the entire country. I watched him twice against Baylor in the opener and against Oklahoma a couple weeks later. And this is like NFL player right then and there. He's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the hands. He was just playing in an offense that was not at all working for him with a quarterback who couldn't get the ball to him. Now he's going to have Arch Manning throwing to him. Like, this is big time. What do you think?
Makes a ton of sense for him. I sort of get not wanting to stick around with Auburn, who I think will be a lot more quarterback run next year behind Byron Brown. Sure, I wonder if landing Cam Coleman makes the Parker Livingstone money situation make a little bit more sense of we're gonna have to pay Cam Coleman a lot and he's probably worth it.
He's probably he's probably making like
3
million.
2, 3. Yeah. If you told me you paid Cam Coleman $3 million, I'd be like, okay. I don't have any problem with that. It's like him and Jeremiah Smith are I think Jeremiah is more technically sound, but Cam Coleman is a physical freak. He is the most physically talented receiver in the country. And so, especially if you feel like you can teach him how to play the position a little bit better, just the hands, the body control, I think Jeremiah Smith as a route runner, as a contested ball guy, maybe a little bit better, but those two guys, NFL Hall of Famers, I think.
They might be both top 10 picks in the 2027 NFL draft. There were people who were saying if Arch came out, he would be the number one pick. I don't know if I really buy that, but I think you saw it in the second half of the year, the upside with Arch again.
Yeah, and I think Arch is going to benefit from having a better target. Ryan Wingo had a weird year. Coming into last year, you felt like Ryan Wingo could be okay, I buy him as a number one receiver. I don't remember thinking much about Parker Livingstone in the offseason, but obviously he was their number one guy for the first half of the year. But man, you add Cam Coleman to that, Arch is going to look even better. So huge for Arch, huge for Cam. Makes a lot of sense for Texas again. If you're paying him $3 million, which I'm guessing he probably has less than that, and maybe some incentives that go to the 3 range, knowing the market, that's my guess. Probably worth it.
Yeah. DJ Lagway, former Florida quarterback, he committed to Baylor, but then also visited Ole Miss over the weekend, it sounded like, while also saying publicly he was still committed to Baylor. That was before the Deuce Knight news, so I don't know if Lagway at this point is still in the mix for Ole Miss or not, but I think him and Baylor made a lot of sense. I also think I'm getting annoyed with the way that the transfer portal is now being covered, where it legitimately feels like high school recruiting again, where it's someone's committed, but they're not really committed. I don't really care about reporting on visits. This is such a small, tight window. Let me know when a guy's leaving. Let me know when he's at a new place. And this feels like the first time we're really getting commits, but then backing out of those commits as well, to the stage.
We've seen a little bit, but we got the Hollywood Smothers situation. I think
Dylan Gabriel was like that too. He was going to UCLA.
Yeah.
Then he
like I said, it wasn't unheard of, but we haven't seen a lot of it. We've seen more of it this window than we ever have before. You can cry about it. It's kind of whatever for me. I think ultimately, I think he'll end up at Baylor. I think it's probably a good fit for him, much needed for Baylor. Did you see, by the way, the picture of DJ Lagway that was circulating?
I did not. What is it?
Oof, it was a tough one. So it's RG3 back at Baylor, and it's DJ Lagway. He is maybe 4, and you can tell it's DJ Lagway, but also I'm just I am 100 years old.
Oh, okay. Well, because Lagway's dad played at Baylor, right?
His dad played at Baylor, and so I'm sure he has some Baylor ties. But yeah, it's a picture of college age RG3, who I covered, and little DJ Lagway, who you can see it in his face. DJ Lagway has a very defined face, so you can tell it's him. It looks like 4-year-old DJ Lagway, and it was going around when he sort of halfway committed to Baylor. So yeah.
So we'll update if anything else happens on the Lagway front. He's committed to Baylor, but has he signed? It doesn't appear to be the case yet. Speaking of people who may or may not have signed or did sign, Damon Williams Jr., we talked a lot about him, the Washington quarterback, after the Ole Miss Miami game. So you can go back to that podcast as we kind of went into the whole thing that happened. But Jed Fish talked about it on radio over the weekend and basically was like, look, he feels sorry. We're welcoming him back. He'll earn his way back to the team. We don't play for 8 months, basically trying to kind of calm everybody down. But he didn't want to get into tampering or any of that stuff. We really just have questions still, and that have been kind of unanswered, and we've worked on reporting on it and other people as well. But we still don't fully exactly know who convinced Damon Williams to make that announcement that he was going to leave and why? Because the reporting at the time, also heads up, Dave, when you touch your headphone there, it makes a weird noise on the audio.
Gotcha.
So, also make sure you got the right mic. I think maybe just double check that. So we don't know who convinced Damon Williams to make that announcement and why. And that's still not exactly clear because it seemed pretty quickly that Darren Heitner, the lawyer he acquired, it's basically like, it may not be a good idea to take this big legal fight, not knowing how it's going to go, how long it's going to take. Washington's on the quarter system as a school. So it's like, if you're going to stay at Washington, you pretty much have to do it now. And so that still all remains a little bit fishy, but any other lingering thoughts on that thing?
Listen, I can't say that I've ever been offered $4 million to do anything in my life. But if I was,
well, he had already signed.
Well, I know, but
Okay.
I'm just saying, if I had signed a $4 million deal with a legally dubiously binding deal that we don't really know, and then somebody offered me $6 million a couple days later,
that's
I could understand maybe trying to see what you could do to like change it. But yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, it sounds like just knowing what legal fight was ahead, it seemed like a lot of schools kind of trimmed the market a little bit for him as well. So, I do think that it's possible for him to get back in good graces. I liked what Jed Fish said, where he was asked about that. And he said, listen, we got 9 months, 8 months till we play a game. It's a long time. And I do think he also mentioned it matters that this wasn't like a 3-week, month-long, drawn-out thing. It was literally like a weekend where he was gone, and like, that does matter. Because like a week ago he was just their quarterback, and then things happen, and so I think this is something. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be immediate, but I think it can be undone if everybody is committed to getting there.
I talked to some agents after the news just to get like, what do they think, and they all thought it's good that he stayed at Washington, because if you signed something, you have to follow through on it. They also kind of doubt the legalness of some of these deals. Some of the agents were like, I have no real problems with the Big Ten template, because most of the Big Ten schools are using the same template. And that template, I've seen a few of them, is the buyout is you have to pay out just the remainder of the deal yourself. The school doesn't have to put you in the portal. Now, some of that is a little iffy, like, again, legally, but I think they said ultimately it's better that he stayed. One agent thought as well, it'll be easier to get to collective bargaining and employment and all these things if this current system like moves smoothly, as opposed to having a court force all these things on you. Others kind of disagreed on that, but most people I talked to in that agent side of it were like, yeah, it's a bad look for everybody to kind of back out, so it's probably good that they stayed.
This is so avoidable. Like, I don't really have any sympathy for players who are going to sign a rev share or an NIL deal and then want out of it a week or two or a month later.
Yeah, I don't think the public does either.
Where I think it might get sticky is the guys that sign 2-year deals and then something happens in year one, they want out of that deal. That's where I think you'll win in public, and I think that's a question that we don't have a good answer to.
So Brendan Sorsby, our colleague Justin Williams, reported on Saturday he has a $1 million buyout because he signed a multi-year deal. He is going to Texas Tech. It's unclear how or who or when that buyout will be paid, but per the CSC rules, that $1 million buyout is also supposed to come out of Texas Tech's rev share cap. So that's an example of kind of one of those where it's interesting. There have been buyouts, there haven't been many. We're still kind of waiting to see how all this works. So we'll see.
And again,
on that front.
Before we move on, I think it's important. Like, we still don't know how enforceable the rev share cap is, and Texas Tech, notably, not a school that signed the participation agreement and sort of made a big show about saying they were not. So like, oh, you hit our rev share cap. Well, it's not a salary cap. So it's like, that the enforceability of that as a penalty is kind of like, eh.
And what some of these schools are doing, and Ross Dellinger got a copy of one of these at Yahoo from LSU for Sorsby, which is like $1 million from rev share and then like $2.5 million or something from an MMR agreement with Playfly Sports, our multimedia company. Like there's Learfield, there's Playfly. They kind of run the back end of a lot of stuff for schools. And the idea being that third party, that Playfly, whoever, is finding $2.5 million worth of NIL deals for you. And the CSC put out some guidance over the weekend being like, hey, we've seen this. We're not exactly sure if this is going to be allowed. So schools, you better make sure, don't make promises you can't keep. So there will be a reckoning come spring when some of this stuff gets submitted and whether or not it gets approved. We don't know yet. That could be a big thing, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Elsewhere in the portal, LSU still looking for a quarterback. Sam Leavitt visited. Leavitt also visited Tennessee and Miami, and I think Kentucky as well. LSU's in the mix for USC transfer Houston Longstreet, Elon quarterback Landon Clark. They're going to need 2 portal quarterbacks, but if it's not Leavitt, like the pickings are getting pretty slim here for Lane. Any thoughts on LSU?
I mean, not that they would tamper, but if you strike out on Leavitt, you wonder if they would sniff around and see if anybody has any interest in jumping in the portal for a sum of money. You've got 5 more days. I wonder about that.
Well, not 5 more. I mean, the portal is. What day is the portal close? Is it the 12th or 16th. Did they move it back? 16th. Oh, they added. That's right. They added some more days onto it. My bad. I was wrong on that earlier.
So if you don't get Leavitt, you don't like what's on the market. In theory, not that anyone would tamper, but you could sort of see like maybe you didn't plan on going in the portal, but what if we gave you 1.5 million more than whatever you're making where you're at?
Well, look, when the Damon Williams news came out and the transfer people reported he was planning to go in with a do not contact tag, even though he never actually went in the portal, but he was planning to have a do not contact tag. And, LSU is a team to watch for him. Like, who knows? Dylan Raiola, quarterback we have not heard much from, was reported by ESPN and others, that he is likely to visit Oregon and that Oregon is a school to watch for him. Whether or not Dante Moore comes back, perhaps he does the Dante Moore thing where he sits a year behind him before playing a year, or if Dante Moore leaves, maybe he's the guy. You and I, not very high on Raiola. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're going somewhere to sit, if you're all in on that and you know that that's the deal, I think they can make it, but maybe it's a situation where like maybe he thinks if he goes to Oregon that like pressures Dante to like make a decision. It's like I'm not gonna pressure him to do anything. So if you're gonna do the thing to sit, like you need to be committed to like that I'm actually gonna sit if that happens. I don't know. Based on what we've seen from him, because he played 2 seasons, right? I believe that's right. He played 2 years. So I don't know that like sitting is that helpful for him. I mean, he had a broken fibula, right? There's some question about whether he's going to be back for the spring. I don't think that it's a situation where like sitting would help him that much. I think he's a guy who probably needs to play more football. So Oregon doesn't make a lot of sense for me from his perspective, and the fact that they like to run their quarterbacks a little bit. Not a ton, but like enough to keep defenses honest and make them account for it. And he's just not going to do that. So, I mean, if it's his decision and he wants to sit, that's good. But if I'm Oregon, I'm probably not that psyched about it.
Yeah, and one other one, Georgia Tech wide receiver Eric Singleton committed to Florida. And when the portal kind of winds down, we'll get into more of the winners and losers. But I think Florida is going to be a big winner here. I think John Summerall has done a really good job of keeping the guys he wanted to keep and adding more. He kept Jaden Ball, the running back. He got Aaron Philo, the quarterback from Georgia Tech. You add Singleton with him as well. You've got some other receivers coming back. Some Florida people that I know are really excited about what Summerall is doing roster-wise. And Singleton, very good player.
Yeah,
Singleton. Wait. No, he was at Auburn. I'm sorry,
he was at Auburn. He came from Georgia Tech.
Then Auburn last year. Yeah.
A lot of people made a big deal about the Lagway thing, but it's like you've got to be on the same page with your quarterback. And like if even if he's a talented guy, if it's going to constantly be tension and you don't see things the same way or you don't feel like it's a great fit, especially when it's your quarterback, that's probably going to be a net negative for you. I keep going back to thinking about, when we talked to Brent Brennan about his first year at Arizona and talking about like begging talented players to stay and it hurting your program. That I don't think John Summerall, not meshing that great with DJ Lagway says that much necessarily about either of them. It's just like sometimes it's just not going to work. We just don't see things the same way. And you'd like to know that now and not figure that out in mid-October.
Yep. I would agree on that. All right. Now we're going to jump back into some talking about Indiana football, and we're going to do it with somebody who saw it up close with how bad it was. That is my father-in-law. So let's get into that. And we are happy to welcome to the show Scott Moore, my father-in-law and proud Indiana University graduate. Scott, welcome to the bunch. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, you're welcome, Chris. Happy to be here.
I was talking to Gabby like last week, and I was like, because we have a family group chat and we've been talking about Indiana and on the run. And I was like, maybe I should ask him to come on the show because you always talk about how bad Indiana football was when you were there. So when were you at Indiana?
Yeah, so I graduated in 1986. So I was there actually 3 years prior to that. My freshman year, I went somewhere else. But basically 83 through 86.
And that period right at the end marked a stretch for Indiana football of 4 winning seasons in the past 40 years. That's how bad it was. There were 2 winning seasons under Lee Corso and a couple way back in the 60s. But from the late 40s all the way to the mid 80s, Indiana did pretty much nothing, including in 1984, an 0-11 season when you were there. What was that like?
Yeah, I definitely picked the wrong time as a football fan to be at Indiana. But so 83, we had Sam Weiss come in, which actually was kind of exciting for the program because he was a pretty big name. But I think we all knew he was there just for a stopover. And they went 3-8 in 83. In 84, Bill Mallory came in, and as you know, he turned out to be one of the best coaches in Indiana history. But his first year, we were 0-11, and I would say that you hear a lot of people talk about Indiana being a basketball school, and in the mid 80s, that was more true than ever. So they were 0-11, and people kind of. They cheered for him, but they didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to football because we kind of knew we were going to lose. And you had free tickets to the games and things like that, but you didn't always go because maybe you had something more interesting to do, as opposed to basketball, where if you had a ticket, you went to the game and every game was sold out. So I would say it was just there, but it wasn't something that a lot of people got overly excited about.
Yeah, the basketball wins the national championship in 81 and 87. So this is right in the era of Bob Knight. And
that was, Bobby Knight was the central figure on Indiana's campus back then for sure. So I was thinking about that actually, because you think if you go on to the big time football campuses right now, probably the players are, all stars on campus. Back then, Steve Alford and the other basketball players were the stars. And I'm not sure I could have told you who any of the football players were back in the mid 80s. So.
How many games did you go to? What was attendance like at the time? What do you remember?
Well, we didn't get tickets for every game, but I think I probably got 3 or 4 tickets, and I think I went every time I had tickets, but we weren't necessarily going purely for the game. We were going to hang out with friends and things like that. And if you look at Indiana Stadium today, it's a nice looking stadium. It's got closed ends. If you went to the stadium back in the mid 80s, it wasn't closed on the end. It was kind of like a glorified high school stadium. And it was never sold out during that season. People went, you kind of cheered, but there wasn't a lot of enthusiasm behind it. And, generally Indiana was, well, of course, in 84, they were losing every game. So it was hard to get excited about.
What have these last 2 years been like? Like, even just to us outsiders, it is the craziest thing we could ever imagine.
Yeah.
For someone like you who saw Indiana go winless, what is it like seeing them 15-0 and about to play for the national championship?
Well, I think the first thing is probably like everyone else, it was kind of hard to believe it. You know what I mean? It's like you had a good performance. For example, earlier this year, they blew out Illinois, and you thought, wow, that's surprising. And then, but then the next game, when they had the next hard game, you said, okay, yeah, they're probably not going to win this one. And then they won that one and beat Oregon, and then you got to the Big Ten championship game. And I'll be honest, I was expecting Ohio State to win that game. And to see them win that game, man, that was, I remember texting you guys on the family chat that I never thought I would see something like this in my lifetime. And yeah, it meant a lot. It was just surreal almost.
Because I think Indiana had only ever beaten Ohio State like a couple of times even in your lifetime. I mean, they've only beaten them 12 times all time. The previous one before this year was, I think, 87. And before that, like, Indiana wasn't any good either. I'm trying to pull up the thing here. Yeah, 87 and 88 were the two Indiana wins. The last one before that was 1951. So it's something you haven't barely seen.
It's funny because when Curt Cignetti came in, remember he did that speech at Assembly Hall, and he said, he goes, Purdue's nothing, but also Ohio State and Michigan are nothing. And basically back in those days, and really not until recently, if Ohio State and Michigan's on the schedule, those are going to be losses. And so for them to have beaten Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game was just not only unexpected, but just something that people in this state have never experienced before.
Yeah, and you live
in
just
football, that is.
Yeah, you live just outside Indianapolis now. What is the feeling there in the state about this run that Indiana football's on?
Yeah, I mean, everyone in the state, I think, is just, on cloud nine. Everyone is behind the Hoosiers 100%. Even if you're not an Indiana graduate, your mother-in-law, my wife, is a Purdue graduate.
Yes,
and her father is a Purdue graduate, and even Purdue graduates are excited about this and excited to see what Indiana's going to do. So it's a whole new world. And it's almost an adjustment because when they talk about Indiana having been a basketball school, they were in the past, but they haven't been good in basketball in a while either.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden to have them be so good in football is taking kind of a mind shift for everyone to get used to that, because it's nothing we've ever experienced before.
And your dad's an Ohio State guy. What I haven't even actually asked you that. How did that go?
Well, he's lived in Indiana most of his life, actually, but you're right. He is a huge fan of Ohio State, and he would have wanted to see Ohio State win that game, and he certainly would have wanted to see them win in the playoffs. But now that they're out of it, he's 100% behind the Hoosiers for sure.
Do you have a prediction for the game? Indiana's about a touchdown favorite. It's going to be in Miami. I've tried to convince you to go, but the tickets are the craziest prices I've ever seen for a college football game. So it's probably not going to happen. But what I will be there. So I'll try to grab something, whatever I can. I'll try to grab something for you, because when Michigan made the championship game and I covered that, I grabbed some stuff for my sister-in-law's husband, because he's a Michigan fan. I'll try to grab some Indiana stuff for you actually while I'm in Miami.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
What's your prediction for the game?
Well, I'm a big believer in the science of jinxing, and so I'm not going to make a prediction. I'm just going to cheer for the Hoosiers and hope they win. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm not going to say before the game. So.
And one thing we always do on this podcast, we remember some guys. We usually just name some random former college football player. Are there any Indiana players you remember from your time? It was not a good time for Indiana football, but are there any players you remember from your time there?
Well, I would say when I was at IU, there's no player that I remember. I was thinking about this earlier because I didn't want that to come across as negative towards the players, and because they were playing in NCAA, they were playing in the Big Ten, and so they had to be very talented players. We just more were interested in basketball than football then. So probably the last Indiana football player that I remember is Anthony Thompson, which was a little bit after
he was right after you. Like 1989 was his big season. I'm looking through the stats of that winless team. Steve Bradley was the quarterback for that winless Indiana team. He threw 10 touchdowns and 20 interceptions. So it was not a good time there for Indiana. But
I suspect he didn't have the greatest offensive line protection. But
that's the fun of this. I think this Indiana run is the most unbelievable turnaround in the history of American sports. For Indiana, I grew up in the Big Ten. Like it really is hard to put into words what this is like. So that's why I wanted to have you on to kind of put that in perspective. And thank you for joining the show, Scott. And we'll be back up there in Indianapolis sometime in 2026 to see the whole family. So thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. Talk to you later, Chris.
Thanks. All right. Thank you to Scott for joining us. That was a fun conversation. My whole family is going to enjoy that. But David is back now, and we're going to end the show the way we always do, and that is by remembering some guys.
It's better than this. Guys being dudes.
I'm going to go with Chris Perry, former Michigan running back, 2000 to 2003. He was up for the Heisman his senior year, Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year. That was, again, right around the period I got into football, and Michigan was my first team. And Chris Perry was just a battering ram of a running back. 51 carries against Michigan State in 2003. Can you imagine a running back in today's game getting 51 carries in a game?
They might arrest the coach walking off the field if they did that today.
It really was just a different kind of football back then, and we miss it. But what about you?
I'm going to remember David Blau. Blau, excuse me. Former Purdue quarterback, current Washington Commanders offensive coordinator, and the man in charge of Jaden Daniels' future. David Blau, aggressively a guy. Chris, how many interceptions do you think he threw in 2016 in 12 games as a starter?
15?
21 for the 3-9 Boilermakers under Darrell Hazel. Listen, fun player though. Came back through 25 more touchdowns as a senior in 2018 to just 8 interceptions. Had some injuries, kind of bounced around a little bit, but fun player to watch. An interesting era of Purdue football, and obviously, he was a guy that played under Jeff Brom. Early on when Jeff was kind of establishing himself at Purdue, and saw him kind of help his career quite a bit. So I enjoyed watching him play.
He was the quarterback in the Tyler Trent game when Purdue whipped Ohio State, number 2 Ohio State, 49-20, threw for almost 400 yards in that game. And yeah, he was playing for my Detroit Lions like just recently. He just became a coach in 2024. Now he's going to be the OC.
The fact that we have a NFL offensive coordinator who is 30 years old, who we were both well into our careers when he was playing. And I think, we were both at the Athletic while he was still playing college football. That's a tough spot. That's a tough spot to be.
We are indeed getting old. Nomination from listener Brett Short, who said, I would like to nominate former Auburn kicker Wes Byram. Highly accurate and calm under pressure, most notably kicking the game-winning field goal over Florida in Gainesville in 2007 and Gator chomping his way off the field. Such a great memory to have in these fallow times. Yeah, beat beat the Heisman Trophy winning Tim Tebow team.
I looked this up, by the way. Wes Byram, apparently an attorney now. So the kicker to litigator pipeline, I feel like, is alive and well. So
that would make sense. I think that makes sense for those guys. So, all right. We said it was going to be an abbreviated show. It ended up being a normal length show because that's what we do. But we wanted to get David on while he had a moment at the coaches convention. We will be back on Thursday to go deep on the national championship game. That will be our big preview. I'm going to be at the championship game, so I don't know what we're going to do after that. But Thursday show is going to be the big one. We might have a guest or two on. I'm going to try to set that up. But we got one game left, man. I'm looking forward to it.
It's going to be a good one.
And it should be a lot of fun. Dave, thanks for taking the time to join. Enjoy the rest of the coaching convention. And so for David Ubben, I'm Chris Vannini. Thank you for listening and watching Bunch Formation, and we will talk to you on Thursday.
And if Michael Irvin and Ray Lewis and Edgerrin James be on the sideline, can the turnover chain be on the sideline too? Just asking. Legend.